Hello, hello. It's Kristen. It's noon. It's Tuesday. I'm trying to get back into doing these lives. The cool thing about social media, and I know all of you guys already know this, is when you connect with somebody or start following someone and you're like, oh my God, I need to know that person. This person is so amazing. I love what they're doing. Today, I'm going to be talking with one of those people, Joslyn. I started following her feed a few months ago and have just been so inspired about her story and her journey and the way that she gives back in such a unique way. So I'm super excited to have her jump on. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Alex. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I am just waiting for Joslyn from Body Enroute to join. I'm really just delighted to talk to her today. We have only ever texted. Oh, you're already here. Great. Love it. I'm going to bring you in, Joslyn. Let's see. There we go. Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
For a second there, I was like, how do I do this?
You got it. You
I
did it.
always forget a half a second.
Yeah,
How
well,
are
thank you
you?
so much for making the time. I was just saying before you jumped on that the awesome thing about social media is you like start following someone and seeing their story and their journey, and you sort of feel like you know all about them. And then you sent me a message yesterday that was like, "Hey, what are we going to talk about?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I know all about you already." So I'm so thrilled to have a chance to actually like have a conversation with you.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm thank you for having me. It's always, I think, really good to do these things just because it's just reaching a wider audience. And I don't know, I feel like yes, you think people know your story, but then you always get a message later from doing these sometimes that someone's like, thank you for sharing.
Oh,
So it's
totally.
always just super helpful. But what are you drinking, by the way?
I'm drinking tea.
Tea?
I
Awesome.
drink a lot of herbal tea. I'm someone who's like always cold, so now that it's winter, I'm pretty much always have a hot
It's,
beverage in hand.
yeah, it's totally just snowing outside right now
Yeah, we had snow overnight and it melted. I'm in Providence. Where are you?
in Boulder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Colorado.
It
Mhm.
sticks around a little bit more over there. Um,
Yeah.
well, I wanted to just I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, but you know the thinking about fitness and living in your body is something that's been top of mind for me. I had my surgery in 2013, and I really started talking to women in the cancer community in 2017, and like
Okay.
really couldn't get over how many people said like I have limited strength and mobility. I feel weak. I can't lift my arms above my head, and that was like months, sometimes years after surgery and treatment. And I think it's so important that people like you are helping educate us on how to move healthily and safely in our bodies.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even the last probably 4 years, how it's changed. And I really couldn't find much. I mean, I obviously did this cancer specialist certification, but I guess if I back up, I can say who I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's
um,
let's hear your
yeah,
story.
so I'm Joslyn, and I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I started out mainly working with outdoor athletes, and I still do. And it honestly has been really awesome because I feel like a lot of women who have now gone or are going into surgery specifically kind of seek me out because I do work with athletes. And this past year, I ended up getting a cancer specialist certification. And oh my God, it was so different. It was so different than a lot of it. The part for the training piece, honestly, was the easiest part, but anything learning about lymphedema, yeah, it is overwhelming, and I totally understand. Like when you get diagnosed with cancer, it's totally overwhelming. So I think that thinking about training or thinking about an after can be really stressful, and I think
Yeah.
that yeah, I think that trying to find any information is also overwhelming. So let alone the after. So I think like when I was searching, I did a mastectomy preventatively, but I was searching all over the place, and I really couldn't find much. Like I found a lot of groups that, they helped with community and finding other women to talk to, but I honestly, that's not what I wanted to do, especially immediately. I just wanted my body back. Like I just wanted to climb and surf and run and do all of these things. And no one could tell me exactly when I was going to feel better. And granted, like all surgeries in general have a certain amount of time, but I was just so surprised that no one could even just say, hey, you know, bear with the drains and the scars and everything. You're going to be fine in a year, or you know because no one can really say. So I also now working with women who are going through cancer or going through a mastectomy preventatively, it is a little bit more unknown. Like I had a client that they went in for their preventative mastectomy and to get the surgery, and then found out that they had cancer. So
Wow.
it's just like you just never know. Like you could be told you have 6 weeks and you'll be, fine to be able to move your arms and get range of motion back. But what if you're hit with that and you go in thinking you're getting a preventative surgery, and then all of a sudden your whole world is just flipped? So I do think, yeah, and that client, expected to be healing and working on that. And then we had to just go into the mode of like, you know what, this is the reality and we're going to have to just take it slow, So, and I feel like I'm very good at switching very quickly with whatever anyone's schedule is too. So, yeah, any questions that you
Yeah,
have?
totally. I mean, I think what you said was so important. And there's so much that happens whether you're deciding to have the surgery preventatively or it's with a cancer diagnosis. And knowing sort of when you're going to feel more like yourself again is like a tiny shred of control that we all want to have.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think there's a lot of people who go through it and don't really think that much about, um, especially if you're facing a cancer diagnosis, it's about survival. And then what does that
hmm,
mean when you're maybe a year out of treatment and you're like, oh wait, I want to start moving again, or I can't do
yeah,
what I used to do. And you're
hmm,
right, it's so hard to find information.
yeah. And also the thing actually is, and I think a lot of people don't actually they don't know this, but you can still work out very lightly through chemo. You can still do that stuff. And I actually still work with women as they're going through chemo. The biggest thing is I am doing this, like I need to get a medical clearance. Like I need your doctor to communicate with me and to let me know that you're okay to do these things, right? But it's it's scary because you feel tired all the time. Like I am currently working with some women that are going through it, and sometimes we'll have a session planned, and I'm very, very flexible with that though. Like if they don't feel good, if they're tired, like that's normal, and there is no shaming. That's like I totally understand, and that's what I'm really flexible with. And I don't think I mentioned this. I actually work a lot virtually with women so that they can, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. So that's
I saw that on
been,
your website. I think that's so important too, and especially during COVID. And I think that you're right that any amount of like movement or exercise, even when you do feel tired, is beneficial. And that, having tools and people you can work with who are experts and specialists is critical. Like, just a
yeah,
quick anecdote, I have always done a lot of yoga since I was in college back in like the early 2000s. And when I didn't start doing yoga again until about a year after my mastectomy. And when I
yeah,
told my yoga instructor, who I'd been, seeing for a few years, she was like, I have no idea what to tell you to do. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, well, I'm just going to like stop if it hurts, I guess. And
yeah,
ultimately, a few years later, like got an injury and
mm,
it looked like I had a hernia. Like I had a muscle in my chest had split, and like my implant, when I would move my
really,
muscles, my implant would like squish out the front. And I ended up having to have a revision surgery, and I
yeah,
went to a different surgeon, And I said to him, "Can I please have a prescription for physical therapy?" And he was like, "Well,
Yeah.
why do you want that?" And I was like, "Well, I'm here because I hurt myself because I didn't know how to
Yeah.
move safely in my body," and had to kind of argue with him. And ultimately, he was like, "Well, do whatever you want." And I ended up seeing a, a physical therapist, and she's wonderful. And I still
Yeah.
periodically email her. But even now, I'm in a class. I go to a yoga class every Friday morning, and we're building towards doing handstands. And every week,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if this is safe. And
Yeah.
there's such limited resources online. And then I see people
Hmm.
like you, and I see other women who are in like physical fitness who've gone through cancer, and I'm like, well, she can do it, I can do, it's just like, what works
Yeah.
for you, what's the slow build, how do you do it safely? And I love that you
Totally.
work with
And
women.
everyone's different too. Like, what's your background before either diagnosis or getting a mastectomy? The biggest thing is range of motion. Like, I
Yeah,
think that I already kind of drilled that in general with any of my clients, but so I mainly also work with like runners and climbers, and so you can only imagine that all my climbers are just so tight in their chests and get this almost kyphotic hunched posture, and it does not help that everyone's on their phones and their computers, so it's just it all goes very weirdly well with getting a mastectomy because that's your body just tightens and just is trying to heal. So all of that needs to just be opened up. So that's strengthening your back, stretching your chest, but doing it carefully, right? Because yeah, you can have stuff kind of open or move, and something that's so cool is so many athletic women are getting over the muscle now,
yeah.
and that wasn't a thing when I had it done.
No,
And
me too.
not that I never wish to do anything and redo anything, but oh my gosh, like the clients that I work with that are getting it done preventatively or they have had it after cancer and um, get it over the muscle, it's insane how much quicker their recovery is. And so if you have to get like a lat or a lat flap or
Right.
under your muscle, like the reality is they're cutting into your muscle and that muscle needs to reheal, and so it's just so much more time. So that is probably the most frustrating is when you get that surgery and you're told just be patient. Like how
Yeah.
frustrating.
And even if
So
it's like, I think one of the things that I struggle with, and I know I've talked to other women, is even when you're healed and it's like safe to start doing things again, the
yeah.
feeling that you get,
It
like the
feels
way
weird.
that it feels to move when they're under your muscle is so, it's sort of grotesque. And I used to love swimming. Um, and I really, I dislike like any kind of lap swimming now. The way that my chest moves when I'm moving just feels so gross, and it doesn't hurt. It's not painful.
Yeah,
I
it
know
just feels
nothing's
weird.
wrong. But it gives me like a queasy. And I too am like, well, I wouldn't necessarily go back and do it differently, but I am
Yeah,
thinking about doing a revision because I want to be able
totally.
to like
Same.
live as well as I can. And I feel
Yeah.
like not only does it feel gross, it looks gross, and it means that I'm impaired in a way.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's also scary to hear um, stories like that where something has happened to the implant. So weirdly, I don't know. I feel like it is safe under the muscle, in a weird way, but there's been so much change, and the implants are just so much better too now. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's something to be said about that too, that it's just going to get better too. And as women are scared because of seeing and reading old things, I think that's also one of the hardest or worst things I think someone can do is go into those Facebook groups. It's just like this dark hole that it's just so much negativity sometimes. So a lot of times when I'm getting a client and they're like, I've read this or I've seen this, I'm like, get out of there. Like,
Yeah.
don't. And I am all for groups and support, but when you feel like you're just reading a bunch of negative things, I think that there's I don't know, a time that you should just like stop, reevaluate, and just like step out of it for a moment and reach out to someone that maybe you're inspired by, or that you are inspired by their story, and just ask them some questions. And that's kind of why I ended up opening up about it a lot, was just because I was searching for that, and I just wanted to find someone um, that would inspire me, so that, that you feel motivated to do the things that you love. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome and really like well put. I think there are some groups that definitely skew negative or scary, or it's the people having the worst experiences who are the most vocal or that get the
Yeah.
most comments, so it shows up more in the feed. It's really hard. And I think you're right that you want to sort of look up and look forward. Like who can help you, like who can help pull you up? And there's
Yeah.
so many people who, I mean, I can't even think of a woman who I know who wouldn't be willing to talk to someone who either was like same
Yeah.
age, diagnosis, like maybe if they had kids or didn't have kids, like life phase, whatever it was. And it was like, hey, I know a new woman who is similar to you in these ways. Would you talk to her so she's less scared? And it's like
Yeah.
universally a yes. Like, yes, I want to make this woman feel like she's going to be okay because I feel okay.
Yeah.
And that's such a valuable thing that, I say a lot of good things. Like, there's so much shit about social media, but I say a lot of good things about
Yeah,
it.
there
Like,
is though.
yeah, like how else would you find, and I wonder too, like did you find a female athlete who'd been through this and you were like, she did it, I can do this?
No, I never did. Yeah. That was the biggest thing, was I I mean, now I have worked with women who are climbers, and I've had a lot of other women who are runners that I've now found, but before my surgery, I didn't find anyone. And even after, I honestly didn't connect with um, someone similar for probably 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So those 3.5 years were me just testing things. And I had labrum surgery, so I knew kind of what it felt like to not use an arm. And yeah, I kind of treated it like that. So in a weird way, I was like, okay, I know what it feels like, but it's both your arms. And then not being able to raise your arms, and then you add in something like climbing. Um, I do honestly feel like I was really lucky that nothing bad happened, because I was constantly like, I hadn't had the cert. Honestly, if I had had the cert, that probably would have scared me a little bit, because they go so in depth to the terrible things that can medically happen.
Yeah.
So now when I work with people, it's not me testing it on myself. I'm very careful with everything that we do, and stuff still happens, and um, it is part of the reality. And I have to warn women too, like, we are going to be careful, but like, your body is different, and like, swelling could occur, and like, we could be so careful, and you could do nothing and it could still happen,
Right.
so like, it just sucks. But yeah, I feel really lucky that I nothing bad happened, because I for
Yeah.
sure I climbed, like, before my neck surgery, anything could have happened. I could have ripped something. And but I was also like so frustrated with that there was nothing out there, that I was like, screw it. I'm gonna
Yeah, I'm
try.
gonna
Kind of
try.
like you,
Yeah.
like the yoga. And um I don't know, I'm super thankful that nothing happened, but it doesn't mean that that wouldn't happen to someone else. So I still am always like, no, 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 you need that range of motion. I honestly had the best range of motion in my life before the neck surgery, because I
Because you
knew that
worked
that
at it,
was,
right?
yeah, I knew that that was so important. So,
Yeah.
um,
Did you see in the comments somebody wrote that you were the first person, active person they found online who had
oh,
the surgery? And I think that
that's
it's so
awesome.
good to hear, right? Like that never gets old. And
Yeah,
I was looking at your website yesterday and thinking how cool it is that you have so many good programs and that they're sort of flexible and that they're virtual. One of the things that I've always, even pre-pandemic, really tried to think about was geography, because,
yeah,
I like this woman stands out in my mind still. I think about her all the time. She lived in rural Kansas, and when she got diagnosed with
yeah,
breast cancer, she was not only 2 hours from the hospital where she was getting treated, she didn't know anyone else who'd ever had breast cancer and,
yeah,
couldn't go back to go to a support group that was at night. And then she was like, and I see all these things online about get-togethers in New York City or like a cycling class in
Yeah.
LA, and I can't ever go to that and it makes me feel worse.
Oh,
And I was like,
yeah.
oh man, how do we make you not feel worse? And I think
Yeah.
the access, and that if you're someone who needs help, who's like willing to do the work, who's looking for it, who wants to feel better, that it's so good that there's programming that's available
Yeah.
online no matter where you live, no matter what time of day. So thank you for creating that. I think,
No, yeah. I mean, I honestly, I wish there was more too. And that's been something that I've kind of got in contact with the woman who was one of the creators of this cert. And, I think that there will be more. Like it's all evolving very quickly, and it's been amazing to just see that happen over the last 4 years. So
yeah,
I am sure that there's going to be a ton more stuff. But honestly, I'm like, okay, I'm in a place that I started. Now I need to make sure I stay on top of it, and whether new certs come out or whatever's happening, I want to make sure that because stuff's always changing. It's the same way for just exercise in general. It's always just changing. So you do always have to stay on top of everything and the newest research or what's happening. But yeah, I feel like um, as for remote and virtual training, yeah, I think it's honestly even better for COVID in general, because not only are you probably scared, because you have to go to all these treatments, or if you're doing it preventatively, you still have to go into the hospital or just checkup appointments. Like, you're not wanting to go to the gym. Like, that's the biggest thing that I hear from a lot of women, that they're like, yeah, I don't want to risk getting sick. Like, can you imagine
yeah,
after the mastectomy coughing? Like, that would
no,
hurt
no,
so
totally.
bad.
Oh my
And
God, it would be
so,
awful. And I think the rest of the world who's not part of this community just doesn't, or any community that is like chronically ill or facing a
yeah,
health issue, people who are fortunate enough to have their health really just don't know. And I think, there's a lot of amazing men and women and people who are working towards helping make the experience for people who've had cancer better, but
yeah,
oftentimes they haven't had it themselves and they don't know.
yeah,
Um, so
exactly.
if
Yeah.
you're someone who's been through it and you know what that feels like, and you're like, I'm designing this around all of those things, you're going to do a better job.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I mean, there's one thing, because I also don't want to discredit anyone that, has gone to school, or that they're PT or anything, because they know their stuff. That's also another zone too. I think that I just wish that there, because you wouldn't wish that there was a PT that had the surgery. Do you know what I mean? So there's also I would never wish anyone to go through it, just because it's gnarly, and it is life changing. And um, my back still is always so tight. So that's something that I'm always working on. But a part of me is like, is that because of, you know, it's under my chest? You just never know. But yeah, I think, yes, the people who have gone to school for this, they know their stuff. But
Totally.
yeah,
I think the conversation is
other
just a little
trainers
bit,
may not.
yeah, and I think the conversation is a little bit different with someone who actually has experienced it. And of course, you would
Yeah.
never wish that on somebody, but I think there's a lot of people who go through it and decide in the same way that you are trying to give back, that someone, and I see Cora is commenting here. Hello. Cora is someone who she does PT, she does lymphatic stuff. She's been through it. She knows, she's working with the community. And I think a lot of people who are sort
Yeah.
of in that space sometimes pivot and focus to
Hmm.
help meet the needs of an experience that they know themselves. And they do
Yeah.
such an awesome job. Like, it's just a different conversation. It's one where you maybe feel more known or safe, or I'm not even sure.
Yeah. No, totally. It's you almost, yeah, it almost goes into, I don't want to say even therapy mode, but even friend mode, where you can relate and just know exactly, sometimes when I'm doing a consultation with someone, they just want to know, hey, how did you feel when you went through this? And to be honest, I had to go back when I started working with a lot of clients. I had to go back because I audio recorded a lot of things.
Oh,
And
smart.
I wish I did more. Like
Yeah.
I honestly wish I wrote more and I said I was going to do it and I said I was going to do the blogs and then you just get busy and then you forget. And I had a friend that told me you need to write all of these things down and it still sticks with me to this day. Like I hi Simran.
Yeah. I was,
Yeah, I just I think that yeah, it's hard to say because you're like, oh, you're just thinking of the future. You just want to
yeah.
feel normal and be past it. So, yeah, it is interesting because, yeah, when I connect with women, you're constantly like, how did you feel during this? But I'm so happy to be able to do that just because, I mean, that's what I wanted. And I remember I did reach out to this one trainer. She was a lot older though. I want to say probably in her, I don't know, maybe even 60, late 50s. And, um, just worked with a different population. And
Mhm.
I emailed her this long novel of an email. And now thinking back, it's so funny because I do get those novel messages where I'm just like, I can't answer this right now because I actually want to answer it. So if anyone ever messages me and I don't answer you right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I just like actually want to answer you. Um, but then their email was so short and it was just like, just have patience. And I was like, no. Like I just, but they advertised that they had, a mastectomy in their website. So I was like, why would you, have that, but then not open up about it,
Yeah.
So I was really surprised. And I was, when that had happened to me, I was like, I will never do that. That kind of became the thing. I was like, I have honestly had a couple people here and there that, they I don't know how this happened. They ended up getting a hold of my WhatsApp number and wouldn't stop messaging me. So
Wow.
that definitely there's a I think like a little line, where you're like, okay, like you need to ask your doctor these questions,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
But I think of the what you just said, the woman in Kansas, and it's like, well, maybe they don't have access and they feel alone, but it's like it can be a lot too. So there's like I do have to draw a boundary where it's like, okay, I've now talked to this person for a week straight now. So, you know,
Yeah,
there's
totally.
a little bit of space too.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like, I don't want to use the word hazard, but I can't come up with another word. But there is, you have to also think about your boundaries when you're putting
Yeah.
yourself out there and talking about your medical experience and your life and your health. And Simran, thanks for the comment. And I think she probably falls into this too. There's a lot of people actually who've jumped on who fall into the same category
Yeah.
of people who are being really active and sharing so much about themselves publicly. And you
Yeah.
do have to sort of draw a line and say,
Hmm.
um, this is me who's available and this is me who's not and when I am and when I'm not available.
Yeah,
Cora, thank you
totally.
to you too. Um, and also
Yeah,
Simran and everyone else who's been on this call who's doing such great work in the community. So
totally. And that's why I offer those 15-minute free consultations because I'm like, use that. But, like after that, either if I during the call maybe I'm like, okay, we can do another, but like 15 minutes, it's not that long, but also that's why I hop on these lives too. So like we can answer questions or people can, ask questions. So and I had to learn for sure because like the first couple of years I just was like, I'll just answer everyone, but then you're like, wait, wait, wait. I also have to work too.
yeah,
So
and you have to feel like that you're not everybody's therapist, right? Like you're trying
yeah,
to do your job and live your life. Well,
totally.
I would love for you to share a little bit about where can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch if they want to? How could someone sign up for a 15-minute consultation?
Yeah, no. So for the 15-minute consultation, it's free. We can honestly just talk like we're talking right now, and you can just do that on my website, which it's bodyenroute.com. That's on my bio for social media too. And it honestly just converts to whatever time zone you're in. So what you see is what's available for my schedule, and you know, that's honestly, I think, the best way to do it because I do get messages through Instagram too, but I don't know. I think connecting face to face or over the phone is just so much better. And you can ask more intimate questions too, um, whether you're scared or worried. And then as for training, I want someone to do a free consultation anyways.
Yeah,
And
totally.
typically, I'm going to ask you, like, what are the next steps? Are you just getting a mastectomy? I really, really encourage women to do training before getting a mastectomy or
Right.
doing, you know, even training through chemo. But, there is the step of me needing the medical clearance. So that 15-minute consultation is going to be the time that I'm going to ask all those questions and just like try to relate to you too. And then um, there are prices and everything too on the website as well.
Awesome.
But like I said, you can do virtual, and then we do depending on what you choose, we can do also virtual, just like this training where I'm watching you and talking you through things as well.
That's so great. Well, thank you. I will link all of those things in the caption for our chat. And I
Awesome.
appreciate your time so much. And it was really awesome to finally get to talk to you. And thank
Yeah,
you for all of the content that you put online for free. It's like really been so good and helpful.
good. Oh, that's awesome to hear. I always like hearing that because I'm like, I don't know who's watching this.
Well, I am, but I'm sure lots of other people are too.
Good. Okay, awesome.
Well, have a great day and enjoy the snow and just lovely to be connected.
Yeah, you too. Have a good day.
Thanks for
See you.
your good work. Bye bye.